Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and I welcome all of you back to the teens. This, ladies and gentlemen, was what I like to call the decade of my destiny. I was still only 11 years old when this decade began. This was a decade in which Lady Gaga's Bad Romance was the first number one of the 2010s. And my goodness, this is, I think, what's going to be really unique and powerful about this sort of channel and talking about these sorts of songs is that this really was like the decade that actually holds a lot of weight. And this is the decade where I have very clear memories about where I was and what I was doing throughout many periods of my life. And considering that this album is turning 10 years old, because I'm fairly certain Book of Souls was released in 2015. But besides that, I just want to say 2015 was, for all intents and purposes, one of the most important years of my life, because it had one of the most significant events of my entire life. It was the year that my nan sadly passed away. I was only 17 at the time, and I know she'd been like fighting at the big C for a short period, but you sort of know sometimes when somebody's life is coming to an end, and we know this, and we know this all too well. And it was the first actual funeral I'd ever been to in my life, and the second one only came 4 years later. So, if there's a staunch reminder, ladies and gentlemen, to enjoy everything you can in your life, now is probably the good time to do it. So that's why we're starting this entire year off with Iron Maiden. Because I can't think of any other band, possibly at the very top of my head, that has not only done it all, not only has one of the most impressive resumes of musicians and singers and songwriters out there, but I also think this is, alongside Judas Priest and Black Sabbath, the only band I can think of that is still ongoing. Not just, not Black Sabbath. Black Sabbath retired in 2017, but when it comes to their legacy, their long-standing history, Iron Maiden and Judas Priest can almost have no equal. This was also, ladies and gentlemen, 2015, the same year that Lemmy Kilmister sadly passed away as well. And trust me, there is going to be a lot of Motorhead featuring in this year as well. Mostly because I genuinely want to hear what Motorhead's last album was really like, for the sake of curiosity. But before all that, we got to get to Iron Maiden's The Book of Souls. Now, I've made sure to go into this album with virtually no backstory, no hint as to what it goes on in The Book of Souls. Absolutely nothing whatsoever. The only thing I do know is that I think it's the last song, Empire of the Clouds, is about the Hindenburg disaster. I've heard a lot of things. I've also heard it's probably the longest Iron Maiden song that they've ever done. But is it the best? Who knows? But what I do know is that usually Iron Maiden songs technically begin with something very fast-paced and very straight to the point. But this, If Eternity Should Fail, is nearly 8.5 minutes in length. Well, then again, considering that if you remember anything at all about The Final Frontier, you know that you don't need an opening to be like super long for it to still. It can be extremely badass, because Final Frontier is god tier in my opinion. But then I haven't listened to everything from Iron Maiden, so let's get to it, shall we? Let's fix that right now. So, If Eternity Should Fail, here we go.
clothing in white, stand in the light. Here is the soul of a man.
Starts off in a very standoff tone.
Yes.
Time to speak with the shame on again. Conjure the jester again. Black dog in the ruins is howling my name. So here is the soul of a man. When the world was virgin, before the coming of men, just a soul, a witness, the beginning of the end. From a world of magma to a cold rock face, the ascent of madness and a human race. We are strange believers, all of us. There are stranger truths and mortal lust. We rise from slumber. He calls our name, recalls our number. How bad raising a sail at the edge of the world. If eternity should fail, waiting in line for the ending of time. If eternity should fail, raising a sail at the edge of the world. If eternity should fail, waiting in line for the ending of time. If eternity should fail. To God's illusion, which I recall, was our delusion. Before the fall, the angels come and angels go, from the rod of light shining there. Eternal blackness beyond the stars. We think our wisdom will get that far. At the master's table, the table's bare. No land of plenty, devastation, despair. Raising a sail at the edge of the world. If eternity should fail, waiting in line for the ending of time. If eternity should fail, raising a sail at the edge of the world. If eternity should fail, waiting in line at the ending of time. If eternity should fail.
Yo, Nico, what are you doing, my man? That's... eternity shall burn.
Waiting in line for the ending of time. If eternity should fail, within the sail on the edge of the world. If eternity should fail, waiting in line at the ending of time. If eternity should
Sure.
fail. Raising the sail at the edge of the world. If eternity should fail, waiting in line at the ending of time.
Eternity shall burn. Waving inside at the edge of the world. If eternity shall burn. Living a lie at the end of the time. If eternity shall burn.
Yeah, they.
Good day. My name is Necropolis. I am formed of the dead. I am the harvester of the soul, and I suck the lives from round my bed. My only two sons, I gave them breath, and I filled their living corpses with my bile. What humanity I knew, I've long forgotten. For me, eternity is nothing but a short while.
Say eternity is nothing but a short hell. So, I'm not going to lie to you, ladies and gentlemen. That was really, really badass for one end of the, this is sort of what I was always suspecting, and the fact is that Iron Maiden actually does something extraordinarily remarkable. It feels like if the whole of the album is like this, I am going to have very, very little complaints, because I think it's more in sort of like, I don't know if it's because of the age of its guys like Bruce Dickinson and Harris and Adrian Smith and all the rest of those guys, and then of course, wow, I didn't even know Steve Harris, bass, guitar, keyboards, and producer. That's quite a lot of titles. But I also didn't. Let's also not forget the fact that you get other guys like Yannick Gers and Jeff Bover and Michael Kenny in this. I also love the fact that Bruce Dickinson is given the title of composer as well. So it gives you it's almost like the idea that these guys are trying to like orchestrate either a stirring sort of. A really stirring narrative, like we've seen that sort of song and dance from Iron Maiden before. But what I am going to just say for the record right now is that, like, and I love a lot of songs that talk about the end of the earth, the end of time, as it will, where there is nothing left on the earth except sand, corpses, bones of dead things lying about. And at the master's table, there's the tables bare, no land of plenty, devastation, despair. And yeah, and it's fantastic. And you know what? Considering that throughout a lot, and I've listened to a lot of Iron Maiden in my time, and they talk a lot about death and life and coming back, and your time will come. Now we go straight up until nihilism. Is that going to be a thing in this entire album? Is this entire album specifically about nihilism? That's what I want to know, because you know what? I don't have an issue with that whatsoever. If it sounds as good as this, and it feels like a story more than like a story. Well, probably not everything, but I hope it's going to be something very poignant. It's the sort of thing that you don't really hear too often out of Iron Maiden. Now, we know fine well that, I think it was like on X Factor where they did In the Name of the Father, which is a bit of a strange choice to start an album off with. But then again, In the Name of the Father was probably the highlight of Blaze Bayley's time with Iron Maiden anyway. But who am I to complain about it? Certainly not me, because considering that there's also I don't really know where else I'm meant to go with talking about this apart from I want to know what comes next. That's what I want to do. So with all that being said and done, I hope all of you guys enjoyed If Eternity Should Fail by Iron Maiden, and I cannot wait to see all of you guys again in the next video. So take care, and bye-bye for now.